the removal of cash is inevitable. No one ever thought that a checkbook will be history in our country. No one ever thought that the checkbook will be discontinued. And we really believe cash can also follow that particular route as well.
Well, thank you so much.
Imagine a world without bulky wallets, no need to fumble for change. Everything is seamless, fast and trackable. This is the seductive promise of a cashless society. It seems convenient, right? But beneath this veneer of progress lurks a potential for control that should give us all pause. While going cashless might seem modern, it's crucial to remember that technology is only as good as the people wielding it. And history is littered with examples of those in power exploiting new tools for their own gain. The shift away from physical money isn't just about convenience, it's about control. And we need to be wary of who might end up holding the reins. Think about it. Every transaction you make digitally leaves a trail. Now, imagine that information in the hands of a corrupt politician. They could track your every purchase, every donation, every interaction in the economy. And if they don't like what they see, they could simply choose to restrict your access. Suddenly, the ability to buy groceries, pay bills, or even receive your salary could be manipulated with the push of a button. This isn't some dystopian fantasy, it's a chillingly real possibility if we hand over complete control of our finances. We've seen this before with things like social credit systems. Don't be fooled into thinking it can't happen here. Here's the thing about crises. They often lead to hasty decisions, often driven by fear. A rash of ATM bombings here, a spike in robberies there, and suddenly the powers that be are telling us that a cashless society is the answer. They'll claim it's for our safety, for our convenience. But let's not kid ourselves. These events, while tragic, can be easily manipulated to fit a pre-existing narrative. Remember, those in power benefit from a climate of fear. It makes us more willing to surrender our freedoms in exchange for a false sense of security. Section 4. Echoes of 1984. When buying a beer becomes a transgression. Remember that book, 1984? Big Brother watching your every move? Think that can't happen? Let's talk about South Africa's Minister of Police, Becky Taylor. He once suggested that people could be arrested simply for buying alcohol. Now
I don't know what that you put in this alcohol. And stop making these requests of opening 3 hours. There are no bottle stores that are going to be opened here. Was it Sham 16? No bottle store, no drop. And my point, anybody that comes close to alcohol, the more bad.
Now imagine that mindset combined with the absolute control of a cashless system. Suddenly what you buy, where you shop and how you choose to live your life becomes subject to the whims of those in charge. A cashless society in the hands of someone like that, that's not progress. That's a page ripped straight out of a dystopian novel. And folks, we are already living in a sequel.
Let's bring you this now. Cash and transit heists have been in the spotlight for a number of weeks now. On top of that, robberies and ATM bombings have become prevalent. Gauteng Premier Banyazali Sufi says there is just too much money circulating in, of course, its effort to combat crime. The province is now considering, though, going cashless. So tomorrow it's holding a cashless indaba with all the stakeholders. And the Premier joins me now to have this conversation. Premier, thank you so much for your time and a good afternoon to you. Well, it seems like you're putting your money where your mouth is, because not so long ago, I mean, you really did express that going cashless may be the way to go for the province. Now we hear and understand there's a cashless indaba where you'll be engaging multiple stakeholders quite soon. Let's talk about how problematic first, before we get into the indaba. How problematic is it to have so much cash circulating in the streets of Gauteng to a point whereby criminals are now so brazen that they can literally shut down a highway and bomb, basically a cash van?
Thank you so much, Tumela. Thanks for the opportunity. It goes beyond that. You might be aware that as a country, we've been grey listed. We've been accused by the international community that we can't control our cash management system. That there are funds that are circulating that ended up in the wrong hands. I think that's the first part. The second part is part of our broad Gauteng anti-crime strategy that we've deployed. You will see that we are making changes in terms of the motor vehicle, because the motor vehicle is at the center of all criminal activities in our province. Either the car is stolen, or the registration number is forged, or the car has been hijacked. So if we have to fight crime in our province, the car is at the center. Motor vehicle is the center of it. And in the next 2 weeks or so, we'll make new announcements to ensure that the motor vehicles in our province cannot be forged, and it will be very difficult to hijack without us being in a position to track or retrieve. The third area, which another area, is that we don't know what is happening in our streets. So as a province, we are taking over the cameras that are owned by Sandral. We're installing almost 8,000 cameras across our province so that we can track everyone or whoever that has committed crime in our province. But the last part, which is very key, which is the reason why we have invited me to this session, is that criminals are doing everything to hunt cash. So if you remove cash, we might be convinced that the cash in transit will be minimal. If you remove cash, we might be convinced that the ATM bombings will be minimal. If you remove cash, we might be convinced that those that are conducting business robberies, either are taking petrol station businesses, it will be minimal. And it's just within that context that we've been on the road show to engage with various stakeholders, the companies that are distributing money, the banks, the retail industry, the liquor industry. We've been consulting them. So tomorrow is a culmination of all these consultations so that we can then develop a roadmap. Yeah. We want to argue as Gauteng that we want to be the first province to go cashless from the 1st of April next year, but we want to argue that the entire province must go cashless from the 1st of January 2026 so that we've got 2 years to plan and strategize. And the session tomorrow will build those building blocks towards Agenda 2026.
It sounds to me like the work has already started from behind the scenes, because in a tweet you also, gave recognition and credit to the hospitality industry, especially hotels. You say they're cooperating nicely with you already regarding moving cashless. I just wonder, even if there's an appreciation of the efforts, will it not be at the expense of other criminal activities being exacerbated? We see with online financial crime, we see with banks struggling. So while we're trying to solve one aspect of crime, are there other ways to ensure that it doesn't move the criminals, probably listening to our conversation right now, Premier, and re-strategizing, now exacerbating and increasing capacity in another form of crime?
Obviously, criminals don't sleep. They will try, but we really believe it will have a minimum effect in terms of loss of lives. If you check the cash heist, if you check the bank robberies, if you check the business robberies, they're scary. And they leave people who either shot by police, and we really believe the online has a minimum. It's not going to eradicate that. But we also want to argue, and that's the reason why even the Indaba, that the banks must also strengthen their online systems. But they also must play their part and come to the party in terms of the interest that they are charging and also the fees that they are charging. We must agree that those particular fees must be as minimum as possible, and that the sector must regulate those particular fees. Right. We also feel that the law enforcement agencies, especially the SAPS, they must also strengthen their capabilities to investigate cyber crimes and also strengthen their team that are working on cybercrime related matters. But the removal of cash is inevitable. No one ever thought that a checkbook will be history in our country. No one ever thought that the checkbook will be discontinued. And we really believe cash can also follow that particular route as well.
Well, thank you so much.
Section 5, the urgency of awareness. Safeguarding our freedoms in a digital age. Look, this isn't about demonizing technology or clinging to the past. It's about recognizing the potential for abuse that comes with any system, especially one that gives so much power to those in control. We need to be asking tough questions, demanding transparency, and holding our leaders accountable. We need to remember that convenience should never come at the cost of freedom. The choice of how we manage our money, how we live our lives, should rest in our hands, not in the hands of those who may seek to control us. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and let's make sure we're shaping the future, not becoming prisoners of it.
The most important person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs.